Hey everybody, welcome to the video, welcome to the channel. This super cool thing behind me, this is the YouTube yacht. See the top? It is a boat-themed rental cabin we're in the process of building. We're waiting on some more lumber to come in, some custom 24-foot 2x10s to finish off the deck. So instead of working on the little promenade deck up top, today we're going to be back on some interior framing around this spiral staircase that we welded up. Hopefully we got some better audio today. I did some research and figured some things out. The generator, the propane one, we found out in the previous video the brushes had failed on it and we didn't have anything for our jigsaw. So today we're going with the old trusty for power. The old dust covers give me some fits. AC on. AC is on. In the previous video we got this wall up and we got the top plate for this lower radius wall installed. So where we're starting off is the bottom plate for that radius wall, which means we got to cut a whole bunch of radius pieces. We're just putting it all, this is 3/4 treated ply. We're doing 3 layers, which gives us 3/4 times 3. Yeah, you can do the math, you'll figure it out. And once we get them all cut out, we glue them together, nail them together so it's one solid piece. And then from there, we're going to have to do some line transfer from the upper top plate to the bottom top plate because there is a very tight tolerance for the wall around this staircase. I didn't leave myself a bunch of room, something I may regret, no denying that. But we're gonna find out here shortly, as soon as this fella gets done cutting it. That fella's me. Third person happens sometimes. So the base plate is glued and nailed together. We're kind of running wild on this end. We did that on the top plate too. I gotta see exactly, you'll see how it comes off that bathroom wall, then we can cut it once it's installed. Just unnecessary amounts of glue, so a little bit of gloves. Now let's see if we can get this thing downstairs. Got the lights plugged into her as well. Have us a little bit of light down here. Fancy. Plenty of trip hazards, that's good. That's good. Anyway, before we bring it down, let's make the marks on the ground so we know where we're actually gonna put the dang thing. So I've got this little Stanley PLS, plumb level square, has a little laser, shoots up, down, and out. Basically a laser plumb bob. That corner right up there, we're gonna get the laser on that, and then we can mark that, transfer it to the concrete. We're lined up right on there. Okay. And then it makes that mark underneath it. So we just mark that. And then we're going to do the same thing on this one. That's the inside. Some X's to help remember. So I'm going to throw some seal on this. I didn't do it on the other wall the other day, and honestly, just personal preference, I don't worry about it as much on like a 2x4 or 2x6 wall like that if it's solid lumber. Maybe I should. But I'm gonna throw some on the plywood. I worry about the plywood kind of delaminating or something like that if it gets any excess moisture underneath it. We should be able to slap it down like that. There's an anxiety right now, and I'll show you in a second the reason. Hopefully everything works out right though. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay. So that goes right there. I'm checking distance between the edge of the stair tread. No way. That one looks good. Oh, I better get the tape measure and make sure my eye's not lying to me, but okay, so we might have to, and yeah, it looks like that, so it's not too big of a deal, I don't think. I think we're okay. Beautifully plumb. Did you use a laser, Mike? I did. 3/16 SDS bit. There is no plumbing in this section. Always something to keep in mind. Beautiful. Well, the next thing we got to figure out is where this wall comes over and ties into this. And the obvious, most common sense is right there, right? We'll just kick that wall right off of that stud. Perfect. Everything we're doing back behind this wall, this is all our utility chase. Electrical panel out there at the distance it has to have by code, and then all the water line valves and things like that. And then we've got space to work for our plumbing stack, which will have to go and shoot up there. So we can go right here. Plenty of room, obviously, for door trim and all that kind of thing. I think that's going to be the easiest, most common sense solution. Now that 2x6 wall for the bathroom / laundry room is also not anchored to the concrete yet. You'll notice we're not going to anchor any of the other 2x4 walls to the concrete yet today. My infinite wisdom, when I picked up the Tapcons, I was doing the math for the thickness of this triple ply curved radius base plate we're making, and not for the 1.5 inch bottom plate on those walls. And since there is plumbing there, I don't want to drill any deeper than I have to. So I'm going to pick up some shorter Tapcons so that we can drill that without risk of punching through any of the plumbing that we've got in place. Complete with drywall nailer. Oh, not bad. Okay, well next we gotta do layout around that. And because it's a radius, my thought is we'll mark the 16 on center on the outside, and that way on the inside is a little less than 16 on center. We have to have a total of 1/2 inch drywall, so we're doing 2 1/4 inch sheets of drywall, which is gonna be, if you're thinking, Mike, how you gonna, you know, like around the stairs? I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there, though. I'll tell you when we're done with the build how I feel about it. I'm gonna just try to wedge our tape in here and see if we can't just run around the outside. This is kind of working. Then we'll measure each one, because there's definitely gonna be some variance, especially with the way that top plate laid in on what we've got going up there. So I just realized one thing I forgot to do. We forgot to trim that top plate right there, so I need to do that first. Oh, concrete, huh? Yeah, that probably means we've gone far enough. Got the battery charger plugged in over. We got the lights, jigsaw, battery charger. So I got 3 more outlets. How am I gonna see it? I don't know. Can't see anything. We do this, I guess, huh? This seems safe. Please. I don't have the patience for this right now. Okay. That all made sense. Because my circle cutting abilities are very subpar, and those are off just a little bit. The biggest thing is that we have a constant plane of some sort. So whenever we put the drywall on there, it's got something to, plane against. So I'm just taking a speed square, base plate, stud, nail, and then we'll probably, probably eyeball the top. I'm not gonna lie, but it's the plan for the base. toenail. One, two, three. That's how that's gonna look. Not too bad. Radius wall around there, very cool. And then right here is where she's gonna come over and box that in. So it'll close off this little utility, whatever you wanna call it, I don't care. Your choice. Anyway, that's what we're looking like. We've got our distance between the stairs. The idea is whenever we put our finish in here, if there's a very minimal gap between the stair and the finish. And remember, we will be putting blocking between each stud, and there will be a secondary bracket out here on the end attached to that blocking. She could live the way she is like this forever, but we can overbuild it as well. I doubt I have enough framing to finish the basement side of things, but let's go ahead and keep going with it. I got an order tomorrow. There's 60 more 2x4s coming and those custom 24-foot 2x10s for the deck. Well, this wall picks up right here. I need to figure out what that measurement is off of that wall. And see that squares off. I don't want that with the radius. We want this to need that to come around yet. So I'm laying this wall out that's gonna close off this little utility section that we're gonna utilize for the operation of the yacht project. We're putting a 28-inch door, which is gonna be a little over 30 inches for the rough opening. You can do 30 inches. I like to go 30 1/4. At least gives us some shim room. That way if we're kind of out of plumb, because you know, you don't frame every day, so not everything comes out exactly how you expect it. You got a little bit of that old wiggle room. The old wiggle room. We're definitely gonna need some of that. I don't have a plan. Thought I had a plan. I don't know where it went. We're evolving into a plan. Yeah, it works out, you know? Just do it. It'll work out. Beautiful. Why do you think, why? Because I measured off the bottom plate. And then I subtracted 4.5, but I was already on the bottom plate, so I just needed to subtract 3. You guys ever seen a triple top? I'm gonna show it to you. At this point, you just hope nobody posts this on the internet for people to see it, you know? Oh gosh. Okay. Shim it? No, we can shim that all day long. So this downstairs area, this will not be sleeping quarters. There will be no sleeping down here. We haven't even decided how we're gonna furnish it. We know we want it to be the recreation area, right? People come to our area to enjoy the outdoors. We have hiking and biking and horseback riding and boating on the river or the creeks and canoeing trips close and caving trips that are close and Holiday World is close. People come here to do things in the outdoors. This is the space you go when it's a rainy, nasty day and you can't get out there. We know we want this to be kind of an industrial theme. It's the bowels of the ship, right? The engine room. That's where all the piping would be, the valving would be, the steam gauges, the engine ship room telegraph that you always see on the movies. We want that kind of stuff down here, and we want it to have that kind of raw vibe to it, but still serve the function of an area for people to hang out with board games or maybe arcade games, TVs, that kind of a thing. That's what we're looking for down here. I'm gonna spend the rest of this afternoon getting good cleanup on this end of the operation, and tomorrow, some more material showing up, and we're moving on to the upstairs to try to do the same thing, except completely different. It is several days later. Check what showed up. Look at this. Look at these monster 24-foot 2x10s that came in. So that's fantastic, because that means later this week we can get right back on that deck. But the rest of our framing package showed up. Some beautiful 2x4s. We missed some days in working. Stay tuned to Dirt Perfect's channel. He's going to have some really good, well, however you want to say that. He's going to have some content coming out on some of the flood stuff here. And I took a day to go help him. And then we've just had a lot of other stuff going on related to the floods lately. So we missed a few days of work, but we are back on it today. And I want to try to get this framed up. Like I said, this is my first time doing radius walls and a spiral staircase and all of this. I've done a tremendous amount of framing and built dozens of homes. This is the first time doing something like this, so there's definitely a learning curve to it. Huh? Learning curve, dad joke, love it. Anyway, there's some things that I would do differently. There was a learning process, and there's some things that I would change. And I want to talk about that a little bit at the end of the video, so if anybody tries to take this on in the future, you might kind of take those tips. So this wall here terminates at the same spot that one does. So we can use that same measurement. But this wall will go all the way around to, is it there? Wherever we line up with that triple. And there's a wall that comes this way off that triple. So we got to make a top plate that goes all the way to there. We've already got the bottom plate made. That's what we've been using for the template. But now we got to do the top plate. I'm not really doing a how-to or anything like that, just more like a food for thought. So if you want to know what I would do differently and you don't really care about the rest of this, you can jump to the end. It'll be somewhere on the outro. But if you want to see how this floor turns out and what we're doing differently on this specific level, well, let's just keep on watching and see what he does. Let's see what he does here. Huh? He's just, look at him, buzzing right around there. Professional. So I've got everything cut, and I mean everything. We've got the bottom plate for this, the top plate, the bottom plate for the next floor, and the top plate for the next floor. So it's all cut, it's all kind of staged in its respective area. For now, this kind of looks like a spider. I'm gonna go ahead and put this back over at the barn so we can get it back on the solar panels charging, because we're done with the big power. But after cutting all that out with the jigsaw and running the chargers and the lights, we're at 43%. Not too bad. We'll turn the AC off, and then we'll turn the battery off. Okay, let's see what we got here. What did I do? My glue, it's not in great shape. It's not in great shape at all. So we're just kind of making it work for what we got. And it's just gonna have to get pitched. Works fine for what we're doing, but not much else. Okay, layer one, and we set on the middle layer, like that. Okay, just kind of get her on there, and we smear it down for the next layer. This corner lined up first. Shove that where it needs to be. Oh, God. So basically I'm plumbing up, I don't know where you're at. I'm plumbing up from this top plate. They don't have to match perfectly because they're on two different levels, but that's the wrong side of the pencil. It's isn't gonna hurt anything. So we'll get that where it needs to be, and we'll tack it down. What I do need finish-wise is I need this to plane across this. That's what we have to have to get it to be right. So that's what we're matching to, is that plane. Just realized you guys can't see that. Just tack that corner. So before we put that up, we've got to get our little corner braces for the framing on the floor joist installed up there. It's like we got these here, because that top plate's going to have to attach to those. I do believe it is time to take that railing down. It's officially in the way of the project. Okay, step one, mark the center of each side. Feels pretty good to be doing some framing work upstairs finally. Okay, let's go measure and see what the heck I did in the basement, because I can't remember. So the next thing I want to do, I'm going to take the little PLS and we're going to transfer this corner just like we did in the basement. And right now it's in no man's land because we didn't do that same style band board, but there it is right there. So I can take my speed square, there's the laser, go just till it disappears, make a mark. This is where that corner needs to be. This way though, right? So as far as in and out this way, I still need to do something about that. I got an idea. I think it's just gonna help with the whole process overall. Let me try something. So the next part of this foolproof plan is we now try to wrestle this onto those incredibly flimsy hangers. And then we'll figure out the next step after that. There's no sense of making a big plan. Just put it up there. That's all we gotta do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That hanger's hanging off for dear life. We're getting there. I'm just trying to figure out my process. So I put the laser on my little supports now. Give me a little bit of a reference of where stuff should be. I'm gonna do that on all of them. Just matching up with what's directly below it. Maybe that'll get me in the spot a little bit better. Well, that helps visualize it a lot. I can see what I got going on now. There's gonna be a point where it's like, no, that tracks, that makes sense. I just don't know where that is yet. To rotate around more? I think it has to rotate around more. I think that's what I'm missing. Okay. Now we can rotate until we get close to where I need to keep rotating. Okay. Okay. She is in fact happy there. Okay. Well, there we go. We just weren't rotated where we needed to be. So I got 3 spots with the laser, actually 4, all on our hangers, and then that corner, from that corner to that corner, laser up fine. And then if, just for fun, in between lasers, which it should, but if we put stud on the bottom, stud on the outside, which is obviously not how the wall is going to be built, but we're just straight lining for the plumbness, we end up with that. So I think we're looking okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and absolutely triple, we'll probably quintuple. That's, I don't know if it's a word, but it sounds fantastic. We're gonna, with the level, making sure things are plumb where they're supposed to be plumb, checking with the laser as well, ending points and start points are where they're at. The only thing that's gonna be different start point wise is the right side of your screen where that door comes in. We just kind of let it run wild so we can cut that off how we need to. But once we get this secured with some more screws and we get our little hanger brackets that we made out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and start running some studs on here. We're gonna get a really good picture of what this thing is gonna look like. Okay, so one thing we absolutely have to do, or I think would be a good idea to do, is we need to make sure our studs stack, which means that this stud down here is continuous, essentially from here to up here. Now, a lot of times you do that in builds so that your chase ways for your electric, your plumbing, or your HVAC returns, that type of thing, you can utilize your stud cavities for that. But the main reason I'm worried about it on this is because whenever we go to put this finish on the inside of here, if our studs are different, say I have one stud here and one stud down here, our screw pattern is going to be different, which this transition, I think, is going to end up all wavy and wonky and kind of weird. It still has the potential to, don't get me wrong about that. But if we stack our studs, it'll, you know, make us look a little bit more professional, perhaps. We're just plumbing up from this stud. We will start off of here, 16 on center, and then go the opposite direction. There's nothing crazy complicated about it. We just want to make sure we're doing everything we can. Give myself a screw to hook onto. Just making sure I still got the X on the right side. We're lined up where we need to be. So this time around, way easier. I ended up just taking the PLS and just making the laser line from the bottom plate to the top plate. Instead of trying to fight the tape measure on the top, just transferred the mark 10 times faster, probably more accurate as well. Should have just done that on the bottom side, but we're learning as we go. The other thing, because of the way I made these bottom plates and top plates, they're not absolutely perfect on that radius. So I'm just going through and making sure that where that stud carries across to the one below that we are plumb, it's gonna plane well whenever we're done. We gotta do a little work with the sander in the future here for sure. And I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. But whenever that's all done, that everything's planing across that, because it's gonna be one finish from the bottom, from the basement, all the way to the top. And I want that finish to look as good as possible. There's no way it's gonna be perfect. This is my first time doing it, but I think we can get it looking, you know, passable, that people are like, that's not too bad. You know, that's the goal. Let me show you just a couple things we're gonna have to tweak in the future, and then I'll talk about how I would do this different from a suggestion from a viewer. You'll notice on the back side, we're probably a heavy 3/8, decent half there. On the front gap, we're closer to probably 2 inches, right? And it's kind of the same on the bottom, pretty loose on that front gap, and pretty tight on that back gap. We talked about it when we set this pole, 4 foot level on a 20 some odd foot pole isn't gonna get you perfectly plumb. The good news is all of these are plumb and seem to plane pretty well with the ones down below, which means the hole is good. We just gotta scoot the top of the stairs that way. So it shouldn't be that big of a deal, because all we have in this is just these screws. So when the time comes, we can back those screws out, set a couple straps up top so she doesn't get too out of control on us, and pull it where we need to, reattach it here, and then when we're done with that floor and we do the landing up there, that'll also help kind of lock that top into place. So it's something we're gonna have to do, but it's not, you know, it's not out of this world. It's nothing crazy. It's completely within our realms and my capabilities of getting that fixed, and everything else looks good about it. Let me show you why I absolutely would never do it the way I did it this time again, as far as making those bottom plates and making this hole opening in the first place. This is what we end up with, right? These are almost 3/8 out here because it just, you know, my cutting, my drawing, whatever, didn't end up perfect. So we're gonna have to take a belt sander with a real heavy grit, you know, like a 2 grit, just a couple big boulders, and wear this down. Now the studs plane, where the studs need to plane, I made like a little jig to do that. They look fine. That's not a problem. We just have to take the belt sander and put a little bit of time and effort into this to get it cleaned up the way we need it to clean up for everything to come across here as far as the finish goes. The other thing is the way I did that opening with that glue lamb style. I mean, it's not terrible, it worked. We've got an opening, we've got something secure there, and we're gonna do something similar to it on the top one because I just need everything to match. It's too late to start a new process now. There were a ton of suggestions on how to do this, and most of them I was like, same amount of work, probably the same amount of precision. But one suggestion that makes the most sense, it would be to take a router and route the actual circumference out in a couple pieces of plywood. Then I could have taken that plywood and used that to attach my glue lamb board to. So it would have been an absolutely perfect circle. And then we could have taken that same router setup and done that for the bottom plate and the top plate, and then they would have been absolutely perfect. I think it still would have taken the same amount of time, but I think it would save us time on the finishing side of things and definitely give us a more accurate opening through the concrete and as far as the plates go. I'm still fine with the way all this looks. I still think this is going to be absolutely spectacular. I'm sure you have tons of questions about how all the other walls are going to tie into this and how all that's going to work. Best I can tell you is just keep on watching. Next video will either be up on the deck, since we got our new 24-foot massive 2x10s, and we can make this super cool curve around the bow and finish that deck, or framing on the inside depending on the weather, or depending on my motivation, which I'm pretty motivated right now, doing a little more digging on that dump truck so we can figure out what's wrong with it and get some parts ordered. Good news is, no parts for this, but I definitely know what's wrong with it. It's not great. It'll be fine though, you know? It's just, the body does amazing things.